HOSA. My name is Sophia, and I'm currently a student at Case Western Reserve University studying for my MSMP, and I'm also a research technician at Cleveland Clinic. So today I'm going to talk about research and the story of kind of getting into research, how you might do it if that's what you want to do. I've been doing research since high school, and I really do love it. So I know a lot of people ask me how to get into that. How do they continue doing research and advancing in it if they've been doing it since high school? So I'm going to give kind of my backstory and maybe a little bit of tips and tricks on how to advance yourself as a research technician. So, why do I need research and what is research? So, research is the process of investigating a new topic or problem to discover new information, expand existing knowledge, or answer specific questions. And it involves collecting, analyzing, and interpreting data to reach conclusions or solve problems. There are various types of research that can be done in many fields, so it's not limiting by any means. You've probably heard that people work in research labs with mice. I used to work in a research lab with zebrafish, but I currently work in one with mice now. So there are loads of different options. It's not limiting at all, which is very, very nice. There's lots of options at different universities you can do, and even some high schools have different research opportunities. So, for those of you that are planning on continuing onto higher education like medical school, PA school, or even dental school, research has become more and more desirable on applications. So, this might apply to you. Research plays a crucial role in solving problems, driving social impact, and fostering personal development in several ways. Without research, we would be stuck with outdated knowledge and ineffective solutions. Research is a powerful tool for creating positive social change, and by deeply understanding societal issues, researchers can propose strategies and policies that do make a difference. In essence, research not only shapes broader social changes, but also empowers individuals to grow personally, improve their understanding of the world, and become better problem solvers. These are all things that you could definitely put on a personal statement as well to make your application stand out. So now you may be asking, how on earth do I get started? I don't even know where to start. I don't have any experience right now. I can't just send someone an email and tell them that I want to work in a lab because I haven't even picked up a pipette before. That's okay. That is truly okay. I hear all the time people say it is so hard for a freshman to get involved. I'm not picking on you, I promise. I just hear that all the time. And it is such an overused statement, so stop using it. It is actually, in my experience, so much easier for a freshman to get a spot in a lab than a junior or a senior. Really, sophomores get hired most of the time that I have found because it's kind of that sweet spot. They'll stay for a couple of years in a lab. They probably have finished all their freshman level classes in the lab. But it is way easier, in my experience, for a freshman to get hired than like a senior or something. Um, so PIs usually prefer to have people working in the lab for 2 or more years rather than 6 months. And the longer you can stay in the lab, the better. So, yes, it does help to have some experience under your belt. But if you don't, that's okay. They don't expect you as a freshman to know how to run a full Western blot or anything like that. So, the faster you can start reaching out to some people on a campus your freshman year and say, hey, I've really found this research interesting. I'm really interested in this, the better, because they're looking for a lot of undergrads to start doing some cheap labor. And you can start working in the lab for, whatever the campus pays as the bottom dollar, but it'll be paid and it will be a really great experience that you can work your way up at. And that's a place you can be for 4 years if that's how long you're going to be at that university. So 4 years is an amazing amount of time to be in a same lab, you can get a lot of work done in 4 years. And it's really great to be in one place for all 4 years. Connections. Everybody knows somebody. And the worst thing that can happen is that somebody says no or that they say nothing at all. So nobody has ever like cussed me out in email or been mean to me for emailing. The worst they're gonna do is not respond at all, or they're gonna say, hey, there's not room in the lab right now. Maybe try this person or try again another time. You're gonna get a lot of no's before you get a yes, but that's okay. It's part of the journey. So email around, speak face to face with people. That's really good. Think of who you may have interacted with that could help you in your journey. It could be literally anybody. Think long and hard about it. Talk to everybody. And a side note about my experience is that every lab job I have ever had, which would be about 3 by now, has come from emails and networking. I have never gotten a lab job from the job applications, actually. Um, it has always come from me emailing the PI and speaking that to them directly, telling them how much I enjoyed their research and that I was interested in it and telling them about my experience. And then a job came with that later on. So if you don't see a job posted online, this is my biggest tip of advice for you. If you don't see a job posted online, like Research Tech 1, Research Tech 2, um, and you're really, really interested in that lab, still email them. Tell them, this is my name, this is where I go to school. Um, I read this publication of yours. I really loved this part. Be specific, tell them these things. And maybe they'll say, oh, we have space right now. We could take you. That might happen. Or they'll say, we don't have space right now, but I'm going to be having a tech leave in the summer when they go to college. I will let you know when they leave before they ever post the job to the public. That happens often. So network with the people and they might get back with you and you can still have that job that you really want even when the job's not available right now. So always talk to the people. Don't think just because there's nothing out there right now that you networking with them right now won't be a good option. And like I said, longevity in a lab is key. Um, Learn your techniques and get good at them, and then expand your horizons. Technique means so much more than you may realize now. So really pay attention in your lab classes in school and soak up all that material that you're being given because the fundamental basics are going to be really, really important later on down the line. Um, you're never going to find a lab technician or a researcher that's fantastic at everything. All labs specialize in a subset of things, and if they need something very specific, they'll go to another lab to help them with that. So you don't have to be amazing at everything. Get really good at something and then expand upon that. Don't think I have to get really good at this and then I have to get really good at this technique and then really good at this technique. Don't overwhelm yourself. You're going into college most likely. So everybody starts somewhere, but they don't get perfect at everything. So don't go into it thinking that that's what's going to happen. And also, shadowing. This does not just apply to labs. You can shadow physicians too. That looks good for labs because they like to know that you have taken the time to talk to other specialties. And maybe you're studying in a kidney lab, maybe you're in a cancer lab. They like to see that you're putting together those clinical connections that you can bring back to the lab. So, most of you, I'd say, probably want to go to med school anyway. It's really good to have both the clinical and the lab experience and kind of mesh them together. But there's also the option of an MD PhD, which we could talk about another time. But it is really nice just to have both of those things that you can work with. And I also wanted to say that everyone wants to get published, of course. Everybody does. That's not a secret. Don't go into the job interview or the first week of the job expecting a publication right out of the gate. It's not really a good look, but you can definitely tell your PI, this is the expectation. This is what I'm hoping to get out of this experience, just so that they're aware. It's good to set those expectations in the forefront. Um, but it should be about you getting that experience. And if a publication comes out of it in the end, great. And just to put things into perspective, a very successful PhD student graduating in about 5 years will maybe get one or two first author papers and maybe like two co-author. They could definitely get more, they could get less. That's 5 years. So I know a lot of people go into research thinking in their first 2 years, oh my gosh, I haven't gotten a publication yet, and I've been working on all these things. Yeah, don't go into it thinking you're going to have a million publications um, as a freshman or a sophomore, and don't think that you need a million publications to get into med school because you don't. Research is becoming more and more prevalent and more of a necessity to have on your applications, but don't think that the publications are everything because they're not, which I think is very, very important to point out. And again, with the shadowing, don't discriminate on who you're going to shadow. Go and shadow everything and then shadow something that you didn't think you would do. Because I definitely have shadowed a lot of specialties that I didn't think that I would like, and then I really ended up enjoying them. So it might change your idea of what kind of research you might want to do, and then you can explore a lot of different specialties before med school. So I know med school and PA school like to see that you have seen a lot of variety and you have some experience in different subsets in different specialties of medicine. So another thing that you can apply onto your applications later on down the line, not this summer before. So yeah, it's a good thing. So my tips and tricks. Oh, this did not advance. Perfect that email grind. We talked a little bit about my experience emailing, and I kind of phrased how to set up that email. Hello, my name is, this is where I go to school. I read this publication. I really liked this. This is what I'm hoping, you have a spot in your lab, yada, yada, yada. Cool, good. I emailed so many people before something clicked. You're going to get a lot of no's, you're going to get a lot of not answers at all until something clicks. Great. Keep it professional, make them personal, but please, 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 please be interested in that work if you're sending that email. Don't just have, I've told people this and they have used this advice, but they get carried away with it, I guess. They have a big like copy paste email and they send like the same thing to everybody in the department. So everybody gets the same email and then they know it's not genuine, and that can kind of sink your chances. So if you're sending something to someone, make sure you're actually interested in that research. If you're interested in oncology, make that personal. If you're interested in kidney, make that personal. So it's not good if you end up getting the job in, let's say, an oncology lab and you have no interest in cancer research at all. And you start working there, you can't really contribute as much as you would want to because you have no interest in that. So make sure you're interested about the data because then you'll really love what you do and you can contribute to the field. Yes, I know research is important and you want to have it for your application, but it's also important that you're passionate about what you do and you can really apply yourself in the specialty. Cool. So, go to symposiums and meet people. Live guest speaker events on college campuses are free and they happen all the time. And I know a lot of people don't know they happen until they get to college. But they're great ways to meet scientists and other physicians that you typically wouldn't get to meet unless you have a class with them or something. And a lot of them travel to get there from like different states and things. So definitely try to go to those. They're great opportunities to learn and network for sure. So, some tips that I would say have helped me is look on, websites. I know WashU has really good ones. Um, Mizzou has some good ones. I don't know what areas you guys are from, but look at the schools around you, colleges, and then expand from there. But look at the topics, find something that you're interested in, and then look up the person that is giving the talk. Um, Usually it's their most recent publication that corresponds with that. Look up that publication and read it, kind of skim, and think of some questions or write down some questions about that publication beforehand. Attend the talk, see if you could answer some of those questions or recall anything, because that'll be your second time hearing it, and then go talk to them after briefly and see if you can schedule a follow-up time to talk more in depth with them about that conversation. Always start with a firm handshake, introduce yourself, um, tell them how much you enjoyed the talk, and definitely schedule that talk for like the next week or something if they can, so they remember you and you have that talk fresh in your mind. But that's a great way to network and show them that you are interested in that field and you're interested in ongoing science and research now in the time. So I think that is a really professional and mature way to do that. Um, so I would also have a scientific resume on hand. This would be aside from jobs that you've had, like working at a coffee shop or lifeguarding over the summer. So make a resume of techniques that you know in the lab, and you can continue to add upon this as you learn more things. Any certifications you have, any lab experience that you have once you get other lab jobs. And this will be very important when you apply for jobs. Just have that on hand. And then when you are working in a lab, like if you are currently, or when you do land that job and you've gained some independence, I would ask if you can take the lead on some things or if there's something that you can do a little more independently in the lab. This can be your time to kind of step up to the plate and gain more confidence in the lab, be able to show them what you know and challenge yourself. And this is a great way for you to kind of gain respect of the lab while having freedom to still ask questions to your mentor while they're there. And this is a great way to start to be on your way to get on a publication if you're working on things that contribute to a bigger part of a project. So that's a way to kind of like get your foot in the door, or ask if there are any um, reviews for like a big publication. When the peer edits come back, there are things that will need to be done. Those revisions, a lot of times they'll have undergrads or people do those revisions for them, and then you can usually get on the publication for that. So I would ask them if there's anything that you can do to help with revisions for publication. So also, I would say this is one of the most important and one of my favorite parts of working in a lab is while you're working in there, it's really important to understand why you're doing what you're doing. Sorry, that's my dog. But it's really easy, I guess, to get carried away with I'm pouring this into this to make this. Okay, cool. Yeah. We do that in like Biolab 1, Chem Lab 1, when you're just starting to work in the lab. You're like, cool, I'm a scientist. I added beaker 1 to beaker 2. I made slime. Like, that's awesome, but you have no idea what was in those two things and why it did that. So when you go to write the reactions, you have no idea how to do the homework. That will not fly in a research lab. I promise you. You'll get really good at writing all the steps of your own procedure and how to do an experiment. But if you don't know how the science behind that works, you will not be able to survive in a research lab. You have to know why things are happening the way they are and why the methodology is the way that it is. So what I would recommend you do is while you are working in the lab, if you have any questions, definitely ask your mentor or your PI as you're going. Hopefully, you have a really good PI. I know not everyone gets so lucky, but write down these questions and schedule a one-on-one with them, maybe bi-weekly or weekly if you get lucky, and really have like a powwow on why are these things happening? What's the science behind this? What is going on? And these are some of the most enriching parts of working in the lab, I think, because you can really let your creativity flow and understand everything going on behind it, like the science, because this is where you get to put the creative process behind it. Understand, okay, we're looking at the data, we're looking at the results of this. This happened due to this. How are we going to change it the next run? You have to understand why these things are happening to make the results the way that they are so that you can make modifications. The only way you can do that is if you know the science. So, really, really important. And that is definitely a big step to overcome and mature in the lab. So, if you're getting that right now and you're taking bigger strides as you go, and you're doing that the whole time you're working in the lab from freshman year on, you're doing a fantastic job and just definitely keep doing that. So, more personal advice, I think this is my last thing. Don't listen to everything you hear. Definitely, this applies to like everything, but you will hear a lot of people say, "Oh, you're not working in a wet lab? That's not good research. That is not going to apply on anything." All research is good research. It doesn't matter what kind of research you're doing, it's all good research. And I will say some med schools do prefer, hands-on wet lab research, but all research is important. All research needs to be done. It's all good research. So if you're interested in research and you want to get into research, do it. It is so rewarding, and don't listen to what other people have to say about it. Notes. Always be taking notes. You will get in trouble in the lab if you're not walking around with the notebook and the pen and writing what your PI is saying. A lot of times they're giving you instructions without saying these are your instructions, and they're hoping you're writing it down. So, from a seasoned lab member to probably a fresh lab member, invest in a notebook and pen, and you will impress them if from day one you're walking behind them writing down the notes. Um, Never walk around without the notebook and the pen, and write down what they're saying and date everything. Date everything. So the takeaway that I want you guys to understand is that research does seem scary, but it is an incredible field with some of the best people I've ever met. They're all so willing to help and explain these concepts to you. It is a fantastic teaching environment for sure. I know some specialties are not teaching hospital oriented, but research is one that doesn't get a lot of credit for what it is. And everybody's so willing to help, and they want more people to come and join the fun. So there is a ton of room for enrichment and growth, especially in undergrad. So I would highly, highly, highly recommend it to everybody, especially because there's so many fields to go into. So here's just some info about me if you guys want to pause it and look it over. I did HOSA for a long time, so I'm happy to continue as an alumni. And if anybody has any questions about anything lab related, or if you want me to elaborate on anything, I would be absolutely more than happy to get on a Zoom and talk. I have my email right there. I'm happy to answer any questions or connect you networking wise. In the lab world, more than happy to do what I can. I do have my lab site on there and my MSMP Case Western personal site up. So I hope this was not too long and hopefully beneficial for you guys going into research. It is definitely a rewarding career and something that I'm very passionate about. So I hope that you guys got something out of this. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, please let me know. Thank you. Bye, HOSA.